Hello, I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to
Who's going to break Hastings' world title?
He's done it, and look at these two go. He's going to do it, his first victory. The World Championship is done. What a race it's been.
Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome here to sunny Melbourne, Australia, here for the third round of the Formula SimRacing Pro Championship. After a very tight vote with the drivers and fans along, Albert Park has won against Montreal, the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, and the Gerard Corniche Street Circuit here to host the third round of the FSR Championships. So it's going to be a stacked grid, it looks to be here today, with many drivers and new coming through to the field today. So it is going to be Australia here, which is going to kickstart and will conclude for that soft Asian round, and then afterwards is going to be for the European leg. Giuseppe Canzoneri and Sven Spiegel are both championship leaders as it stands, 46 points between them themselves, and outside of that it is Winter and Amir with 28 points and 27 points both respectively, and Cedric Bill 22 points completes for the top 5. So it's going to be very exciting here to see who is going to come out on top. Muzingo and Canzoneri equal in points. It's all to play for here in Albert Park before our European leg in the calendar nears. Albert Park itself has hosted the FSR here in the Pro Championship since its inception. Back then only 13 cars lined up on the grid in 2006, and now 19 years later I think we're going to get 19 drivers are going to be here for qualifying very soon to determine today's race. Since then, Melbourne has hosted 15 races with a hiatus after 2019, returned back in spectacular fashion when the vice champion Alessandro Maggio manages to win last year's race. But just about 7 minutes left to go here for qualifying. Single holds on to a very good lead with the 5/10 up ahead of Snowden, and Canzoneri, there you go, also vice championship now as leader as it stands. He is 4/10 off and he's got his first laps up onto the board. Snowden down in third with just about 5/10 off, and then Zubik 6/10, and then David Eigen in 7/10, and he's just about 300ths faster than Suzuri. As we're looking on board now, as he's going to go green for the first sector, as he's just trying to go navigate very tightly here for the second sector now, flattened through the series of corners here, through 9 and 10, needing to make sure you get that very good apex here to look through and make the best possible line here as we head for the third and difficult tight sector in the third. It's just going to be a series of near right angles. There's two series of right angles here, and then have to try and get a wide exit here for the final 2 turns here. A very difficult chicane, probably one of the most difficult chicanes on the calendar, and very notorious to get right here to capitalize on the straight that he's just slipped off just a little bit, and not much improvement there going to be there for the Tunisian as it stands, as very going to be stacked here. It is 19 grid, as we said before here. Only Vincnevich, the only driver, has yet to set a lap time here for 6 minutes left to go, and into the wall goes Fellini, and he will be, I think we'll maybe have another go, but that's not very good signs there for the Italian. Frey also down with 5 seconds outside there, but Zubik now, he's going to try and look for a lap now. He's been doing particularly okay as it stands, only within the top 5, and looking to try and get some very valuable points here onto the Pro Championship as it stands. Just navigating out for the first sector. It's going to have to be very tight and very long, a little bit on the curb there, just a little bit sideways, but manages to put it in together very well. See, with the track temperatures over at 32 degrees, it's going to be very notorious here with the tire degradation that we're going to see here on set. It's going to be really difficult to try and get those tires as cool as possible, especially during the race conditions here. 50 laps is going to be what awaits for these drivers here, as he's slowly going to be approaching for the side sector. Here we go. He's currently been the provisional pole sitter as it stands, but he's looking to try and go one better. He's already been purple in the first and the second sector, a little bit sideways. Exit out for that straight. One of that will be able to capitalize any time now, but we have to see, as he's going to have to see to navigate through the final few corners. Is it going to be any more improvement there for Single? Just going to navigate out for the final 2 turns. Looks to be very, very good. It's possibly going to maybe make it into the bag and maybe cement it early on. Also, the Valley driver's got something up against his sleeves, and Cantoneri down in second. But what we'll see, what the Hungarian can do. Van der Hoening has improved a bit, but Single, I think, does improve. He does improve, and that will allow for 3.5 tenths faster than Van der Hoening, who has displaced his teammate Giuseppe Cantoneri for second. And that is absolutely incredible. But Giuseppe Cantoneri, ooh, a little bit sideways here, going for the final sector. Through the final corner, a little bit squiggly. Is there going to be any more improvements for the Italian to be able to get? This goes across the line. Yes, it is an improvement, but it's not purple through the final sector. It is went purple through the second sector, so that hasn't managed to warrant himself a bit of improvement, and has clawed that gap as well, down to 1/10 now, so it's a little bit more manageable and gives himself a little bit of leniency and hopefully to try and push to get even more positions. Amine Swuzi, the Tunisian, navigating out for the second sector, has done pretty good. I think it's going to be looking to be improvements. It is a personal best for the first 2 sectors, hence for the greens, and just for the final 3 corners is going to see how he's going to do. Just navigating, see, getting much of the track surface as he possibly can. Lots of people here are just going flat out through that final corner and just maybe a little bit too eager on the accelerator to see what improvements that they'll be able to muster. All improvements all around, but it's still only just 7th for the Tunisian, and it's actually 500ths away from Snowden up ahead, who in turn himself is only 400ths away from Eggert, who in turn is also 200ths away from that pack. So very tight here between 5th, 6th and 7th, as we finally got an improvement there from Mateo Felingi. He was one of the last ones to set his time, and Mihailo Visnevich also manages to set a lap time, and they are both 16th and 18th respectively. Juho Soppinen, iRacing Formula 4 Division 8 winner previously, is going to see what he can muster here. I think he had made his debut back in Sepang. Out for the final corner, seems to be greens all around, and I think might be looking for a bit of a position jump. He does get a bit of a position jump, and it's up to 7th for the Finnish driver. Very good there, so that will make it the Valet 2, 3 and 7 as it stands, with about 120 seconds left to go. Right now here with Swizzy once again. Going to get interesting to see if he can muster any more improvements for him. Currently 4th in the championship, so as it stands, it might be looking a bit of a points move. A little bit swirly out for the final quarter. Once again, he's not very confident, I think, there. But across the line, yeah, it's only the personal best improvement through turn 8, and it's not quite looking good as the clock slowly ticks down. I think that's going to be it for his qualifying run. Cedric Biel done pretty well for himself. He's also up in charge with Swizzy for that position there. Both of them are battling for 3rd as it stands on the championship. 1 second away from the pole sitter in Istvan Siegel. And what can Cedric muster here? He's gone through personal best improvement for the 1st sector, and it has been a personal best in the 3rd sector. That's enough to warrant himself up into 6th. Very good there from the GOAT Team Racing driver, and would really be proud with that. It's just about under a minute now left to go. Istvan Spiegel has been the man to beat all through today. Is he going to able to capitalize and make it stick with another improvement? We'll have to see. Here's his teammate David Eigen going out through the final corner. Any improvements there for the driver of Timonel? Yeah, it's a personal improvement, but he still remains up into the 5th position. So it's been a decent showing from there. Bodrovisky has been in the pits. He's not going to make any more improvements, as will Crawford and Cedric Biel. So those ones are pretty much phonetically done. Mihailo Visnevich, one of the last ones to set their lap times. Personal best in the 2nd sector. Is he going to make a personal best for the final sector? Goes across the line. No improvements there. He still stays in 17th. 10 seconds now left to go through qualifying. Giuseppe Canzoneri, here we go. Not improvement for the first sector. Looks a bit worrying there for the Italian driver, especially when the championship is practically on the line. Even though it is only the thirds, it's all about the momentum to carry through before the European leg. Over for the third final sector now. Just needs to capitalize, see if he can make anything through those final final corners, because it has been won before. Making through use of that third sector, has capitalized in position scorings before, as Van der Hooding now, he's a personal best through the second sector, but not quite strong enough in the first sector. Actually, Isvan Spiegel has gone purple through the first sector, 26.9, and Rudin Van der Hooding doesn't improve, 2/10 slower than his the time that he set over for third. And have to see there with Zubik now pretty good there for the second sector, but no improvements there for him. No, he does actually improve. He gets himself up into third, and Isvan Spiegel, as we mentioned before, purple. Is it going to make any more improvements now? I think all of his front runners are pretty much all cemented behind him, and I think Isvan Spiegel will navigate through the final two corners to put on a pole position here for the Optimal team, and what will be a very clinical display for qualifying here. And absolutely incredible there from the Hungarian, and a really well-deserved pole position indeed, only by 1/10, and didn't quite, I think he may have made an improvement, or not sure, but really strong there from Istvan Spiegel, and he will start now from qualifying, from the race, as pole position. Phenomenal work there.
Hello, I'm Jack Nichols.
From the Italian. The Italian there of Giuseppe Canzoneri, he'll be pretty good with second. It's still only 1/10, so it's not that quite far off from Spiegel, and it still puts the pressure onto him. It is still the championship leaders that will share a front row. Peter Zubik, very good for him as he holds on to third with Ruben van der Hooding, allows for a valet 2 and 4. David Eigen will also make it for an optimal 1 and 5, so that's going to be very interesting for the constructors to play around with. Cedric Beale over in 6th and Anime Swaze in 7th, so those two fighting for third in the championship, also going to be more or less around the same area. William Snowden in 8th for the Englishman, with Juho Sappinen in 9th, and following up and concluding for the top 10, it is Nandor Marza for the CMT Go Team Racing. It completes for the top 10. Sander Van Lunen in 11th with another Optimal eSports car, still within the top 15, with Jared Batala in for Go Team Racing. Andriy Botrovsky in the MV Conquest, he's the highest performing there, and Persis Meram in 14th. Svamil Tindora in 15th for Valle, with Matteo Fuglini in 16th for Driver Revolution, Mihailo Vicentic in 17th, Terry Crawford and Sigurd Frey in 18th and 19th for SimPark Racing. Complete for the 19 cars that are going to be competing here in the FSR Pro Championship here at Albert Park. .60 seconds left to go, and it's been very exciting. Pro Championship has its been stands. Well, I mean, it's been really exciting for FSR as a whole as it enters into its 25th championship here. But here at Albert Park, that has been hosting for about 19 years actually. So the Pro Championship has been around. Albert Park has hosted it 16 of those times. But very interesting though for Giuseppe Canzoneri, that has won the first race, still holds on to that lead, but Istvan Spiegel follows up through in Sepang with a very good win there for Optimal, and that will make it Only those two split up only just by the front row, which makes those 50 laps up into the race all the more exciting. And it's going to be really, really interesting to see who will prosper up from there. Autumnal Esports holds the Constructors' Championship still only by 74 points, 10 points away from Vale Esports over in second. It is the best scoring two-car teams that will hold that hold on to the Constructors' Championship. And then outside for Vale, CMT Go Team with their performances has done very well to hold on to third, with Cedric Bill and Marsa being the last of the point scorers contributors back in Sepang. Warm-up has slowly started to finish, and we can expect to see a 19-car field out on the green on the grid today. 50 laps, very warm temperatures. Going to see lots of tire degradations, especially for people that are going to look for their chances on to these climates. So I expect to see potentially 2 stops here, and with the softs potentially easy to burn out. And you can see a lot of people here going on to the mediums. I reckon that medium compound would be the better way, the better compound to start, I reckon. I think it should be slowly starting to cool down, as you have seen on the ambient temperature, 14 degrees. So we can see the track maybe starting to cool down a bit, just a little bit. But with all that in mind, still 19 cars, and it's going to be really interesting to see in the amounts of those 50 laps. Apologies for pausing myself, but yeah. It'll definitely be interesting. Here, look for the tire compounds. I think everyone has gone for the mediums. Yeah, mediums is definitely the compound to potentially be on. Single, Marsa and Vincenevich, Crawford and Frey are the only ones that has put onto those hard compounds. So they're hoping to try and prolong their stints as much as they possibly can, and hopefully try to make use of it. Single will probably be the one biggest advantage of it, with Cantoneri, Zubik and Van der Hudding over behind. That will mean that Single will just have like a crowd to follow along, and even if he gets overtaken, at least will have a bit of a DRS to assist into his advantage and carry on through with that lead. And then hopefully the game is just to have medium tire pace on hards, and it could work for the Hungarians' favour. But Cantoner, I think he knows what's up at stake, especially for that championship lead where nothing has been split between those two in the first 2 races. All cultivates here down to the 3rd race, and we're going to have to look here for the lineup once again before we head off for lights out. Istvan Spiegel, very good qualifying from him. He holds on to 1/10 ahead of Giuseppe Canzoneri. Holds on for pole position here at Albert Park, and Canzoneri, he is the first of the medium runners up ahead with in second. Zubik in 3rd with Van der Hudding in 4th, and Eigen in 5th with Bill in 6th. So we can actually see a lot more people are actually going for the hard runners. So that was actually down from 6th, 7th, and then from 10th all the way down to 13th, I believe. Anime Suzy in 7th with William Snowden in 8th. Juho Sapanen in 9th with Marsa in 10th. Sven Van Luden in 11th with Balta in 12th. Brotovoski in 13th. Perseus Minuram in 14th for the Canadian. And Udona in 15th. Fugolini in 16th. Vincenevich in 17th. And then finally it is Crawford and Frey in 18th and 19th. 19 cars for today. It's going to be a very interesting here for 50 laps. Everyone seems to be on the mediums, bar a couple of people. It's going to be very interesting to see which strategy is going to definitely come out on top here, especially with the track getting a little bit cooler here. Just joining along alongside me in the commentary box, actually. David O'Reilly, nice to have you here for again. It has been very different here compared to Sepang, as it is going to be a track circuit, and we can see, I think, the track is starting to cool down a bit.
Yes, well, indeed. I think 15 degrees atmospheric temperature, and late in the Melbourne afternoon, it'll definitely get cooler. And it's a track that's a lot kinder on tyres to what we saw in Malaysia. So I think we should see some drivers getting onto the softs at some stage, and certainly with a hard and a medium, it's a one-stop is very much achievable. I'll hand it back over to you to call the shots.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be very interesting. Albert's really a way that many strategies can happen here. But the championship leaders on to the left and on to the right here. Single on pole position. Cancellieri in second. They're still equal on points. Both of them have a race win apiece. Is any of them going to be able to hold on to a win, or are we going to see a third different race winner in 3 races? Going to wait for the lights to slowly come out. It's anyone's game here. Here we go. 1 light, 2 light, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. The third race of FSR Pro Championship is underway here. Going to be a good start for Siegel, and he just falls on slots behind. Zubik is going to have a look for the outside heading for turn 1 and pushes Cancellieri just a little bit, but Cancellieri perseveres and holds on to second, but that defense will allow for his Single to get himself up into a very good start, and that will allow for Cancellieri onto the defense already, heading down through the third corner, and there's not much quite action going on here. Oh wow, there's a lot of overtakes happening in between there. That's happening. Trying to look out for the inside of Swizzy, and he tries to make the move. He does make the move, gets it, reclaims himself back up to 9th, and that will allow for Marta to be under pressure from Van Leeuwen. Van Leeuwen himself gets himself up into 10th, and Marta drops down to 11th. Exciting racing here, and they all slowly drop down to the single file line, but that was a very clean and exciting racing, I must say.
Yeah, a bit of drama at the first turn 1, turn 2 complex, and a bit of contact.
Van Hunning has gone off, and he has to rejoin. Oh no, he's lost on the grass. Oh no, he's ricocheted back into the racing line, and that is major contact. That is major contact there. Van Hunning has claimed someone. I think that was
William Snowden.
Oh wow, that was William Snowden. Oh, that's so unfortunate. Van Hunning trying to keep the car in control. He is still managing to rub it back in. Yeah, that's Snowden's race over, I'm afraid. And that is unreal, unfortunate moment there, especially for the Valley team, for Van Hunning, who was so far up ahead and now has dropped all the way back down to 18th, and with that much damage, looking into the pits.
Yeah, that was a massive collection of suspension arms there behind the barrier as well. I think I saw about 4 sets of front suspension arms. And Mihajlo Vincenzovic was also suffered damage in the first complex. So we've got a couple of wounded soldiers heading down pit lane.
Yeah, it's interesting because they're a bit of a loop now. Don't think.
Yeah, I'll just go and have a little bit of a look at a T-cam view and see if I can interpret what went on for you.
Yeah, having a look up ahead though. Eigen still under pressuring Cedric Bill, and then we go spinning off ahead, and that's Juho Soppanen. I think he'll be able to recover. He does recover, but he drops down 2 positions. He was up into 7th, now down to 9th. Looks to be going from bad to worse for Valle, as Van Hunting himself is into the pits. Fulligini is also retired. I think he was over in 15th, I believe. And that's another retirement to the books. And Van der Hunting has called it a day. Oh no, I think that was someone that went off, I think, or really, really sideways. I think he might be fine, but not sure if the camera caught off there. But looking over for Brock Travisky now up into the top 10, and maybe tries to pick up the pieces from what was a very discombobulated Juho Soppanen out of that final corner. And there we go, Giuseppe Cancellieri pressuring Single, who's on the hards, might make a very quick overtake and make it stick. But I think for Single, the thing he just needs to do now is just hold it in and capture as much as he possibly can. I think that's Simon Frey. I think that's going very slowly, but I'm not quite sure.
I did go back and have a look at the Ruben van der Hoeding incident, and he went for a pretty ambitious overtake around the outside in that turn 9-10 high-speed semi-chicane, if you like, hooked wheels with the driver on the inside, survived that okay, but the carnage occurred really with what was essentially an accidental unsafe rejoin. He drove across the grass, car still in one piece at that stage, but then lost it, bounced off the barriers and rejoined the track going backwards in a pretty high-speed section of the course. So it was a unintentional, unsafe rejoin following a very ambitious overtake. So quite unfortunate, and it's just a shame when people can't complete lap one, keep their car in one piece, but we live and learn.
This is it. This is for the championship lead now. Catanari goes around for the outside now. Hey for turn 11 and 12. Swoops in before the corner even happens. And that is a magnificent overtake from the Italian. Exactly what he needs to do, especially with that tire compound difference. Now he needs to try and push away as much as he possibly can from the Hungarian. But the thing for the Hungarian is that he will have that DRS advantage.
Well, these two have gapped the rest of the grid, haven't they? They've turned this into a two-horse race at the minute with very similar pace. And as you say, Canzoneri's got to make this work. He's on the softer compound of the two. He's on the medium. Istvan Single on the hard. So he's got to make hay while the sun shines on these mediums. And they will quite soon be coming across lap traffic. People who've had some unfortunate incidents. Mihajlo Vincenzovic. And the first man they'll catch is Sigurd Frey, who's less than half a sector in front of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Juha Sappinen on board now, was in 9th. I think he's dropped a couple more places now, just slot behind his teammate. And I think is going to try and look for an overtake as much as he possibly can as they head over through 4 and 5. And it's very hard to overtake there. He hits the wall a bit. I think that might be a little bit of damage to his suspension. But he's still persevering on through 6 and 7, through 8. Still applying the pressure onto his Italian teammate up ahead. Going through 9 and 10 through Clark. And looks for the outside with a bit slipstream. Is he going to try and look for a move? No, I think he's going to just hold back here for 11 and 12. Plays it safe, especially doesn't want to make such an optimistic overtake on your teammate. I'm sure it'll end in horrors as it happened with Van der Hoeding, unfortunately. But yeah, it's not looking very good for the Finnish driver, but he's still trying to make the best of the possible situation. I think, is that Eigen into the pits? It's quite early to be pitting, I think, at this stage. No, he's not into the pits, that's just the TV overlay. But Tidona is into the pits, and that is very early, especially lap 6.
Yeah, I'm with him now. I'll try to tell you if I see anything happening. It might even be a penalty. He might be serving a drive-through, because he's not moved into the slow lane. I think it was a drive-through.
Drive-through indeed for Tidona then, and that will relegate him all the way down to 14th. So Valle on the back foot here, a lot of catching up to do, especially in that fight for the constructors, where Optimal is holding that 2nd and 5th place. So that gap between those two, which is 10 points, is going to become an even bigger deficit for the Italian team to climb back up. But now looking on board here with David, now catching up to Cedric. Cedric is on his own battles for 3rd in the Drivers' Championship, and just has got, I think he's done fairly well, because his compatriot for that battle, Swazi, down in 6th. So as it stands, he will definitely hold on to that 3rd place in the championship. But can David be able to do anything to take that maybe away from him? Still applying to the pressure onto the CMT Go Team Racing driver, but nothing quite yet of avail into lap 7 as he heads through the 1st sector, and just applying the pressure to him, but not quite making an overtake yet, but a bit with the slipstream. I think we might be able to see something here. Maybe looks for the inside, but no, not quite. He's still too far back.
Yeah, making good use of the DRS there. I'm just going to make a bit of a note here. 6 laps in, that Istvan Single despite being on the hards, is only 1.2 seconds behind Canzoneri, which would, if you were on the softer compound, that would definitely be making you feel pretty anxious, reasonable, well, not probably a third of the way into their first stint. So Single at the moment putting himself in a great position for when these guys swap tyres inevitably, and Single will then have the pace advantage on the quicker tyre.
They're both playing very two different games here, but Single's strategy is definitely working out by how much he's making use of those hard tires. And I am looking here from the graphics, the track is still on a steady climate as well. I think it might drop a bit more as the race goes on in the next 40 laps or so. So I think that will also be an interesting eye to keep out, especially for how the tire compounds will work out through the race. So that will become even more important as it goes on. Eggert almost loses it coming out for the second corner, but still manages to hold on. And that was very, very close there from the optimal driver. We've seen a lot of drivers there almost losing it, but with very quick reflexes, manages to hold on and keep it onto the track. I'm honestly impressed he managed to hold it in.
Well, it's a straight fight because both these guys are on the medium tyre. And looking on board with David Agayan, the car seems to be handling quite well. And Cedric Bill lapping at very similar pace. It amazes me how quick these guys get through the 7-8 complex.
Yeah, absolutely. It really, really does, especially in this pro category now. Through the third sector, Eggert goes and he loses it almost once again, but still manages to hold it in and keep the car keeping it straight. Very impressive there once again. It's the second time he's almost lost it, but once again he still manages to hold it in on this bulldog fight with Cedric Bill. But the amount of times that he loses it, it is thinking of Swansea just slowly catching up into that field. And I think it's slowly coming down to within a second the more that he doesn't overtake. So Oates has to make it sooner rather than later. And it's another DRS for David. And still not quite there yet. But still applying the pressure, which is all that he really needs. And just needs to not bruise the curbs or just accelerate onto the curbs too much, because that is what's really upsetting the car and is pushing himself up into the back foot. Single is just losing out of the DRS range to Canzoneri up ahead. And I think with that hards, he's just now going to be pretty much on a race of his own and needs to just keep on track with that tire compound and just see how much he can do to Giuseppe up ahead. And there is the DRS. So yeah, he is effectively out of the DRS range as it stands. Back now to Eggert now with Cedric still up ahead. Through the third sector they go. Still in a tight battle for fourth. The CMT Go team is in third and fourth, so this is going to be the biggest points haul if they finish as they stand. And this will be very, very important as well for the Pro Constructors Championship for how it stands, especially with Valet not looking at the best as it stands. Heading out for the home straight, almost looks for a move, but not quite yet. But it's going to be the closest that he's ever been. And a little bit off from the first turn means that Cedric Bill will have enough of the momentum to be able to offset and overtake from David. Still very exciting racing between those two in such an early stage.
Yeah, it's very interesting up the front as well. And although Istvan Single is just outside DRS range, the gap at the moment is 0.89 of a second. He's actually been closing. A couple of laps ago, he was 1.2 seconds. Now here we are, we're 10 laps in. And of course, both these guys, both their tyres are on a deg curve. But as we know, the medium tyre is a much steeper deg curve than the hard. So I think the pendulum is going to swing towards the guy in second place at the moment, because just that beautiful moment of the medium being gummy and quicker is passing now as we watch. And Single's tyre is going to be far more consistent. And I think he's going to start monstering him within 3 or 4 laps, which will be quite exciting.
Depends also as well how well Canzoneri can defend, because Albert Park with their very tight walls makes it fairly easy to defend, but also given its wide track surface on a street circuit, also not. So it's going to be interesting to see how Canzoneri can play this track into its favors and how difficult he can make for single. Not to mention as well, for single, he's got a, I think it's a 7-10 second over there. That's Eggert. We were just watching him challenge for 4th with Cedric Beale, but he's gone off. That is through turn. Will probably be pretty happy with that, because the Frenchman now on his own in 4th, and only Zubik is only just ahead. But you can see there with David, his suspension is a little bit off, so it's not good for Optimal. But Van Leeuwen is still there to pick up the pieces. What used to be 5th is now looking to be a 2 and 6 in stands. Still going to be a pretty healthy points haul overall, but it's a matter of what could have been for the Dutch team.
I suspect David again has had a bit of a hardware brake issue in his sim rig, because when I looked at, as he entered the braking zone, he not only braked very late, he only braked to about 40%. And I'm suspecting that he's got an issue with his hardware. We'll find out, no doubt, well after the race.
Yeah, that's not ideal at all. Frey also DNFs along with Juho Soppinen, so now we're what we used to be 19 cars. It's only lap 12 out of 50. It's now down to 14 cars now. But still, nothing is split between Canzoneri and Single. Single's done very well to maintain the hards as he possibly can, but is now nearly on the verge of the DRS, just about. He's got about 2 tenths to try and claw to activate that DRS flap up from behind. Still applying the pressure for turns 11 and 12. The Hungarian will have, and it's still comfortable from there. But Zubik, Alpen 3rd, 5 seconds off from the leaders. So as you mentioned before, it is effectively a race of their own, these two. But Zubik and Beale now, with those two in 3rd and 4th, it is a very healthy deficit. And surely with that deficit, they'll be able to retain maybe 3rd and 4th if their strategy plays up.
Yeah, they're decent gaps building up, aren't they? Istvan Single now is within DRS range of Canzoneri. So those two are having a very intense.
And that's just very hard to get right. I think it must have accelerated up onto the curb, but Single now, that is actually now down to 5 tenths now, so the DRS is really working in his favor. You think Canzoneri's medium compounds is starting to slowly degrade faster than the hards are as they head out between turns 10 and 11. Flat out for 11 and 12 might be for Canzoneri's favor with the bit of the dirty air, but Single just needs to follow behind as he possibly can. And now meanwhile down behind, that's Eggert under pressure now for Perseus Miram for P10, and still holding off as it stands. I think he looks to be okay, but with that suspension issue that we were talking about, it's not very ideal, especially to navigate in Albert Park and such. Yeah, it's a bit frustrating, I must say, for Eggert, especially if it was a half software issue. Canzoneri goes a bit slow for the final corner now, and it's going to be an overtake for Single to hold to the lead. And the pole sitter reclaims the lead on lap 14 out of 50, and as such, the championship as well.
Yeah, inevitable really with the with his performance that he's been showing relative to the medium shod Canzoneri. And I guess Canzoneri's best bet at the moment is to just keep it calm, stay as close as he can, and hope that his chances come around about the pit stop time.
Yeah, he's really trying to stick behind to Single as he can, but look at that gap though. It has increasing over time. He's even without in the DRS range, so not even going to get involved with that. Batal is going to try and overtake Brotowski for 8th. Very exciting battle that we've seen these two here. It's nearly up into the rear wing of them, actually coming out through 8 as those two drivers go. It's been so really exciting. It's been seeing battles all the way up from first and second and even 8th and 9th now as it stands. So very, very interesting that we're seeing here. The CMT Go team is one of the Pierce's Miram is the only other one that is below over in 11th. So it's been a very strong showing for everyone here for the 4 drivers. But Botovsky, the sole driver from, I think he is driving for MV Conquest. I think it's the sole one? No, he's not. Vicentage is 1 lap down. But 8th and 14th for those, and he's holding off to some very valuable points for the standings for himself and for the team. He heads into the pits now. I think that will be a scheduled pit stop. So I think we can expect to see some other medium runners head into the pits soon.
Yeah, pretty early stop, I would have said, for a medium, but it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. The group from 3rd, Petra Zubek, down to 6th, Sander van Leeuwen, very tight group. That whole group separated only by two and a bit seconds. So, and all of them on the same tyre. So that's going to be a fantastic race-long duel for the afternoon.
Yeah, Zubek and Bill are closing up. I think Bill's only 1 second behind. And there you go. That's the train that we're looking up ahead for the timing screens, led by Zubek. And all of them are on the medium runners, so they're all effectively playing their same strategy as it stands. Swizzy just a little bit sideways out through the 3rd sector, but still holds on and maintains to it. You can see, like, as the tire compound slowly starts to wear down, it becomes a lot more harder to make those recoveries, even as such as simple as a swiggle. And there we go.
Canzoneri in the pits. Yep.
He's into the pits now, so that's going to be a change in combat. I think he'll have to go for the hards, I believe.
Well, he's got to use them at some point, and he's going to have a bit more strategic. Yeah, he's on the hards now. He's going to have a very little strategic option at the moment other than try to put a long stint on the hards. And you never know, he might even get himself in good enough shape to, if he can do 25 laps on the hards, he will have the option to put some softs on at the end and try to do something exciting at the end. Istvan Single, I reckon Istvan Single may be in the zone for a 1-stop because he's, as we've seen, he's still got very, very good pace. If he can get to 30 laps on the hard, he's in 1-stop territory easily.
Track has cooled down a lot as well.
We might be looking at 1-stop versus 2-stop.
Yeah, the track has cooled down a lot as well when I mentioned, so that's... No, it was 17 degrees, now it's up to 25 degrees, my pod. I thought there was something wrong with the overlays, my bad. But Ayagan now up, still under the pressure from the Spaniard, up ahead for 8th. I think because we've seen Canzoneri into the pits, I think Zubik, Bill, Swizzy and Van Leeuwen will be into the pits very soon. Yeah, there we go. Sander Van Leeuwen is the next into the pits. He's the first of the Timlo drivers come into the pits. And I think that will mean that the others surely will have to follow suit now. So the mediums have lasted for about 17 laps. And as you mentioned before, since Siegel's into the hards, he has an opportunity to 1-stop if he wants. And there we go, another one's into the pits there for Ayagan. So both up Timlo drivers head into the pits. And they're both going to go for hard, I reckon.
The beautiful thing about the hard, of course, is as your stint goes on, the fuel effect is greater than the tyre deg, so you actually just keep getting faster, which is a beautiful feeling, and that's not something that happens on the medium. So Istvan Single is still lapping in the 120s, so he's still doing very respectable lap times. Last time around he was a 120.2, so there's a lot of people, most of the people from second place down have not been as quick as that lap on their best lap. So Istvan Single is really doing a fantastic stint. Very, very impressive.
Another one into the pits. I think that was Zubik up ahead. And he is coming over from second. So he'll also be moving on to the hards. Giuseppe Canzoneri gone fastest on the first sector, 2.84. But I think might be looking for a personal improvement. And there we go, yeah, Zubik into the pits. I think he will come out just behind Canzoneri. We'll have to see with Leeuwen, though, who did pit who was amongst that train as well, that did pit a lap earlier. I think Zubik, yeah, he's come out on the mediums, so he's going for a second medium, I believe.
Well, interesting. Wants to maintain his best pace he can. 18 laps on the medium, 18's 36. Well, you know, if he can go longer on this set, he does have the choice to finish on the soft, because he could conceivably get 12 or 14 laps out of the soft with low fuel and a track that's nicely rubbered in. We might see him do a medium soft, which will be a big change from what we saw in Malaysia.
Yeah, to end in a softs would be pretty interesting to see. I think if that's the way that Zubik is going to go, it'll definitely play in its favours. And as well, he's also not alone, because other teammates will also be in favour there. As there we go, Swoozy also into the pits. He's one of the later ones to enter the pits, and that will allow for Bill, who was, I think he was up in 5th at one point, so we're going to see how his place will be in contrast to the others that have pitted, that undercutted and pit right onto the pit window. Van Loon was one of the first ones heading into the pits now. I think he'll definitely jump positions with that, and he does so. I think he climbs good amount of positions, does overtake Swoozy, but just behind Zubik, and Swoozy in 7th. Just joins about behind, and at least he's got no traffic, but he's still fair back off from Van Leeuwen. When you consider that the bit of the traffic that was there before, he's got quite a bit of catching up to do.
It's still very close between Istvan Single and Giuseppe Canzoneri. Looking at the gap there, it's 19.6 between Single in first place and Canzoneri in 4th place. Actually, he's bringing it down. It's now down to 18.5. So it's going to be very close when Istvan Single comes out of the pits, but he will presumably be on pretty quick tyres. So we might be seeing another bite at the cherry in terms of the battle between these two front runners.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, because Canzoneri is indeed a man on a mission for where is he going to fight, as there's Miram nearly trying to overtake Brodowski, but concedes before off in 11, and off he goes. Off Miram goes, and still just about holds it onto the grass and recovers it fairly well to still hold on to retain 10th and not make anything horrible there, as David Iagan now going side by side, heading down for turn 11. Now is going to try and make an overtake on going to Crawford. Now has the outside line through 11, and Crawford concedes just to make it stick there. Canzoneri on the battle with Marsa, makes the move. I think that was really sideways coming through turn 3. It might have been longer than Giuseppe might have wanted for, but he's made the move stick. And now Cedric Beale will probably be the next on those laps. About 10 seconds between those two drivers. Actually,
looking at lap times, Canzoneri is at the moment lapping about a second quicker on average than Istvan Single. So in fact, he is at the moment effectively going to be ahead of him when Istvan Single comes out of the pit lane. If he maintains this current pace, he's running in the mid-19s and Istvan Single running in the mid-20s. So it's a case of Istvan Single deciding how patient he wants to be before he dives in. He's at 21 laps now, 9 more laps, and he's a one-stopper. And curious about that.
It's very hard to see if that's going to pay off any dividends for Single, because I think one stopping in a track like Albert Park is a lot of risk, but could potentially hold rewards if it pays into your favor. But I'm not quite sure for the Hungarian if it will, especially for how fast Canzoneri is currently lapping as it stands. I think in order for it to maybe work into his favor, I think it'll have to be if his pits come out without any traffic and Canzoneri's pits do. But it can really go any way though, David, and yeah, it's...
Well, he's got about 20 seconds in hand at the moment. If he goes another 9 laps and drops a second a lap, he's still got a 10-second, effective 10-second lead if Canzoneri pits again. So, yeah, just going to be fun. Going to be fun to see what they decide to do in the heat of battle.
Very interesting. Those two awfully on the fights for championship here. Especially Amir, I think it's just got overtaken by David Ayan for 10th. and the Optimo driver finally breaks himself up into the top 10 after his incident over at turn 1. I think that was with his hardware issue, and has fallen a bit back ever since, but now he's found himself back into his element and is going to be able to push as much as he possibly can onto the hard compounds. Well, Batala's up ahead. That will be about 6 seconds, and with the way that they're lapping, I think it should be fine to hold on to that another point scoring position onto the books. Amir Swoozy with his person that he's currently third in the championship, but as it stands, Cedric Bill standing in second. He still has yet to pit. He's really prolonging the life on the tires, the Frenchman, and the Tunisian, I think, is just there to more or less pick up the pieces. Being overtaken by Van Leeuwen, I think, up ahead. It's we'll have to see whereabouts that where the Tunisia can effectively go from here, especially since it's nearly halfway through the race now.
Istvan Single coming up now to just put another lap on Mihajlo Vincenzovic, who was the unfortunate victim of some lap 1, turn 1 carnage. So he's moved across. Very experienced driver, Mihajlo Vincenzovic. He's moved across to allow Istvan Single through without any issues. His tyres are still looking good in terms of from the onboard shot. Just looking at them now, they don't look particularly blistered or nasty. So I think he's just pacing himself and doing a very good job looking after these tyres.
Yeah, he is really doing well, so gotta give your credits off to him, absolutely. But oh boy, it's nearly been about halfway for the race now. Single still holds on to the lead with Cedric Bill over in second. That's going to be his, if he finishes the way that he does, that will be his provisional, it's going to be his provisional best, as his best last was in 4th in Bahrain at race 1. Giuseppe Canzonieri, the second of the race winners, in 3rd. He's still along his chase for Istvan Single up for the lead, with Marsa and Zubik in 4th and 5th. Zubik, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Zubik is on his... I think Zubik might be on his team, I'm not sure. But Marsa himself, his best finish was over in 7th in Sepang. So if he finishes the way that he does, he'll also be on for a career FSR Pro best if he finishes the upper part the way he does. Van Leeuwen in 6th, with Swoozy in 7th, Bravotsky in 8th, Batala in 9th, and Eggert completes for the top 10 with Muram, Crawford, Tadona, and Vicentovic in the other point scoring positions up to 14th. About halfway through the race now, so it's a little bit deep through the final for the penultimate corner, as trying to catch up to Van Leeuwen up ahead on the mediums. Just a little bit there, but still only a second away, and he needs to get in with about 7.5 tenths for that DRS flap. No longer a second, it's 7.5 here for Albert Park as it stands. So yeah, the Tunisian just trying to do everything he can to catch up to the Dutchman, but it's just fairly normal as it stands. Nearly halfway for the race though. Been very exciting so far.
Yeah, brilliant race, brilliant tactical race, and lots of on-track action. Canzonieri not making any more dent into the lead, although unless the timing's just glitched a little bit, but I'm looking at 16.5 seconds gap between Canzonieri in 3rd and Istvan Single in 1st. And you would be... I think he might have just had a bit of a bad lap, or a bad couple of sectors. You would be expecting that to come down consistently, but Single is just being a magician on these 25-lap-old hards.
He's doing incredibly well, I must say, and Canzonieri is also doing as much as he possibly can, but for Single to be able to hold on to that hards for such a prolonged amount of time, I think it really does mean it must be going for a one-stop if he is prolonging it that much. Because if he can hold it in for maybe 5 laps or a little bit more, I think he's just got a medium stint and just push on to the end. Or as we've mentioned before, a softs if he dares to try it. But again, that's the thing with starting the hards and be able to prolong as much as you can. You've got more ways to alternate your strategy. As soon as he goes really deep to the behind of Van Leeuwen, just applying the pressure for the first sector now. Flat out for the 5th. A little bit of kicking dust from the Dutchman up ahead. And Tunisian still just doing everything he can to keep that pressure on. I think he is within the DRS range. Heading out, exit out for 9. flat out through 9 and 10. Out for Clark. He's going to have to use a bit of the slipstream over to his favor. Going side by side, heading through turn 11 now. A little bit of the rear axle bit going over. The Dutchman holds it off through 11 and 12. And that was a really good defensive move from Van Leeuwen to retain 6th position and to fend off Amir for now, as is looking for 13 and 14. Both of them a bit of a wiggle, but the Attimo driver comes out on top and gets himself just a bit of momentum in his favor and holds off for now. Another set of pit stops there. That's Cedric Bull into the pits. He's finally done it after 26 laps. I think those mediums are definitely cooked. He'll be onto the hards, I reckon, for 24 laps. And there goes Swizzy down for the inside of Van Leeuwen. Oh, and there's a bit of contact. And they're still going side by side. Exit for turn 2. Van Leeuwen still holds on to 5th. Actually, no, down for the inside goes Swizzy. A little bit of wheel banging. And, oh no, they're both into the grass. I think no, Swizzy's just come out on top. Van Leeuwen is the one into the grass. Pushes it off. Van Leeuwen comes out, but still only 6th. So Swizzy has got himself an overtake, but yeah, I think that was a bit too tight for comfort.
Well, I had a little bit of a look there from on board, and it did look to me like the defence from Van Leeuwen was slightly marginal. It looked like he was deliberately squeezing Amir Suzy in the braking zone, well off the racing line, way over to the right, and it did look a little bit marginal. So lucky they're both still pointing in the right direction.
Yeah, I think Van Leeuwen will definitely be shaken by being pushed onto the grass like that, but very marginal and very, very close to the edge. It's Attimo driver, but has to concede 6th for the time being, as Suzy onto the median compound still. Question is, like, how long we'll be able to hold on to. But Van Leeuwen, knowing that he's on the hards, will have his time to shine later on, whenever it becomes a much softer compound in the end of its stint. As you've mentioned before, that's the joy of hard compounds, and I'm sure in Albert Park it sure pays its dividends.
Is Van Single starting to struggle a little bit, it seems, on the hard compound 27 laps into this stint. He's fighting them a bit, and he's had these last couple of lap times have been fairly slow. And Giuseppe Canzonieri now well into the 19s and running just 12 and a bit seconds behind. So it's hotting up. It's hotting up here at the front. But I do think Canzonieri is going to need to stop again.
Was Bartala. That was Bartala, and he was running really well. So that's another top 10 runner out of contention, and that is now down to 13 cars left running here.
Crawford entering pit lane for a front wing. His steering did seem to be pretty straight, so hopefully he doesn't have too much suspension damage, and with a front wing he can be off and away again. And don't know what tyres he's used. Maybe if he puts some hards on, he can go to the end.
Cards would probably definitely be the way to go for Crawford as it stands. There's Suzy now all over the back of Marsa now. This is in the battle for 4th position. And Suzy has definitely been on the charge since the overtake. Van Leeuwen, Cedric Bull came into the pits out in 7th. Look at this swinging an overtake now before turn 11. Is going to make the move before Vince sticks. He does so, and that will be a very good display for the Tunisian. Up into 4th. Definitely in fight for the championship here, especially for 3rd, and to make it stick away from other contenders. And he's made the move stick, so very impressive there from Tunisian. Really good.
Crawford's car looks okay. I'm with him exiting the pits and driving through sector 1, and he seems pretty confident. A clean run from here to the flag.
That was replay being happened. That's Van Leeuwen. That's why he dropped down to Cedric Bull, actually, right behind, I believe. And yeah, he does drop down a position or so. And his helmet's no, his suspension looks pretty okay on the onboard as he's trying to catch up to the position that he's lost to Cedric. But it is good news for Cedric, though, that has pitted just fairly recently and on a newer compound than the optimal driver behind. Is less traffic to worry about, especially for Van Loon, who has been pretty good in terms of defending, as we've seen with Susie and them just a few laps prior. But yeah, gotta feel a bit for the Dutchman, but still holds on to that optimal point score position. It's still 1st and 7th, which is, I think, GOAT Racing as it stands. As it stands, I think they're the ones that will come out of Australia with the most points today.
Yeah, there's a lot of their cars towards the middle and the front of the top 10, so well done to them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really incredible for CMT Go Team. It's just been a little bit off the shelf, and there's Van Loon. He's going into the pits. I think 20 laps to go. You think it might be a time for the hards? Sorry, for the softs?
Well, he's on the hards now. Do we think this is his first stop or not? He's just grabbed mediums.
He's already pitted. He's already pitted before. He was on the mediums before. He's on the hards. So I think must be on the mediums or on the softs, but it is so early on for the softs, though, I wonder.
Yeah,
so
I'm on board with him, and it looks like he's gone for the medium, but it also looks like he might be having some damage repaired because he's been sitting stationary for quite some time. I think he might be having a little bit of damage repair done, but still sitting in 9th. He's leaving pit lane now after a pretty lengthy stop.
Riding on with Giuseppe Cantoneri now. He's still clawed it up a bit. What used to be 20 seconds between himself and Single is now down to 8 seconds now. And it's just doing very well. Oh, the horns! And he spun around! Oh no! And that has undone all the hard work that he's been looking to do to try and take to the lead. And now I think Single is the only man left to win.
Yes, well, Petra Zubek drove past him while he was recovering to the track there, and a bit of an embarrassing place to spin as well on the pit straight where the biggest grandstands are and the most people in the crowd are, and all your corporate sponsors, no doubt, sitting in beautiful suites above pit lane. So he'll put his head down now and want to get going, and certainly get ahead of Petra Zubek and at least get into the top 2 again.
Very heartbreaking for Giuseppe, though. He's pretty much done all that he possibly can in the stretch that he's given up until now, and you gotta feel for the Italian because that championship lead is slipping away from his fingers. Unless there's something drastic happens, Single will exit out of Albert Park as the championship leader, and as something for the first 2 races where nothing has been split between those two. Is that mistake very crucial for the momentum for the Italian that he's going to lose? And as you've said, he needs to be able to pick up the pieces, and Zubik
Single is in the pits. Leader is pitting. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah,
finally.
So, done very well on those compounds, and I think it'll probably be the mediums or even the softs if he even dares to do so.
Looks like he's gone medium, and he's only got 19 laps to do on them. So Isfan Single is going to, with low fuel, a rubbered-in track, and a fresh set of mediums, he is going to unleash some pace now, and he's only 4.2 seconds behind the leader, Petra Zubek. So he's going to be, as soon as he brings these tyres in, because of course they come out of the covers not much warmer than atmospheric temperature now, so a clever driver will bring them in gently so as not to cause too much really get some pace going.
Looking on board there, that was Marsa, who was, I think, at 4th at one place. So that was Susie that was just flew past, and then that was Cedric Bill also overtaking them out the first sector. And unfortunately there for Marsa, that was in a really good points position, but it's just slipped away from the fingers. But good news for Susie, though, as he's into the top 4. And look who's up just ahead. It is the Single co-championship leader, but probably will be the championship leader as it stands from Giuseppe's rather unfortunate mistake. And you can see with Giuseppe is just trying to pull out all the stops to catch up to Peter Zubek. But with that spin, though, And with that tire degradation, because we know how those flat spots can really affect the tire life, is it too much of an ask to overtake Zubik, do you think?
Well, really good question. Was he halfway down the straight? Was he just entering the pit straight? Was it out of the final corner? Or,
yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you've got a bit of a fighting chance then. If it was a low-speed spin, and if he didn't have to slam the brakes on to avoid the wall, he may have managed not to flat spot them. But I just don't think he is going to go much longer on these tyres anyway, because he put them on, I think it was lap 15 or 16, he went for the hards. So I got a feeling Canzoneri just wants to get to a comfortable distance to put mediums back on again, which is probably about now, because we're 17 laps out, so that would be 1 lap longer than his first stint on the medium. And I think, quite frankly, that's going to be his best bet, because if he jumps onto them now, he's going to have a bit of work to do. He's going to rejoin probably in 6th place, and just depending on the strategy of those guys behind him, Susie and Cedric Bill, I haven't kept tabs on their tyre strat. He may have to do a fair bit of overtaking.
Here we go, this is for the championship lead now. Single on for the outside and makes it before even turn 1. A lap 54 out of 50. It seems to be all and done for Istvan. He's done everything that he needs to do and has capitalized on Giuseppe's mistake. And surely with that overtake on Zubik that will come sooner than later onto those mediums, he will have to exit out of Albert Park as another race win into his books. And for Giuseppe, pretty much a what could have been. Looking for Andrei Borvotsky now in 7th, and that was Eggert. I think that was just behind. Yeah, that is an 8th. Actually, no, that's Tidona. They've just lapped. But yeah, Borvotsky has done pretty well to claw himself up into the top 7. As you mentioned before, with Susie and Cedric, 4th and 5th, still very good performances for them. But Susie actually is still following on to that leader's train with Zubik, Siegel, and Canzoneri. So really strong from him, considering that he was in the group with Bill, Marsa, Borvotsky, Eigen, and Van Leeuwen. So the Tunisian has done extremely well to follow along to that pace as well, with only just about 15 laps to go.
Yeah, how much do you reckon Petra Zubek is sweating at the moment? He kind of ended up in 1st place, so with the Canzoneri spin, he probably didn't see himself this afternoon battling Istvan Single for the lead. So I think there might be a little bit of sweat creeping along.
Canzoneri's into the pits, and I think surely he'll have to be in the soft compound now towards the end of the race with 15 laps to go. And pretty much for the Valley driver is to use the softs until they run out, and to see if they can claw back many positions, because otherwise if the Italian doesn't, he's looking at his current season's worst ever position. Talking about a driver that's never finished outside the podium, that could be in real possibility here if Bill and Susie make it difficult for him. But there we go, Single looking for the inside now before even turn 11, and with that overspeed will surely have to make it work. I think Zubik maybe had to try to look for a look, but that tire advantage is just too great for the Hungarian to be able to make and capitalize. Makes it work, and he helps into the lead. And hopefully, I think with no other pressures behind him, I think it's his race to lose now.
Well, can you just imagine how nice a fresh set of they're actually mediums, what a fresh set of mediums feels like with low fuel compared to a 32-lap-old set of hards that he just got rid of. His car is going to be feeling unbelievable at the moment, and he's going to be having some fun on these fresh tyres and low fuel here at Albert Park in the afternoon.
Yeah, Canzoneri definitely has to stretch the car legs a bit and make most of that valet car, as Susie done really well to fall into the lead, but now is onto his final scheduled pit stop at 36 out of 50. And we're going to see for Canzoneri, I believe. There we go, makes the overtake up into 4th, and he's definitely on a man of mission. Susie, meanwhile, he's onto the softs as Canzoneri's onto the mediums, so those two are playing very different towards the end games. I think Susie believes that he can be able to he'll be able to push those softs right onto the end, but Canzoneri is going to be playing it a little bit safe with a compound that he knows and sure enough loves as he started the race with them. So Canzoneri's just got Cedric Bill to go up ahead and Zubik. So that's going to be quite a deficit, I must say, to be able to get back up into P2.
Well, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? I mean, Susie on the soft, I think 14 laps is relatively long stint on the soft, doable. But he's going to have to be a little bit patient and not take too much out of them too early. So the dead curve doesn't kick in too steeply, but he's got Canzoneri within his sights, and that can be very, very motivating. When you're on one step faster tyre than the guy ahead of you, it might feel like a great opportunity. If he can get past him, it's going to be a case of looking after tyres so he can stay ahead of him, because Canzoneri is trying to do exactly the same thing to another driver, Cedric Bill, who is 5 seconds up the road. Or just looked at Canzoneri's just on his first completed lap. It was an 18.9, so he is going quickly. He's a second quicker than Cedric Bill ahead of him. So on that schedule, we would expect Canzoneri to be on him within 5 laps, and he's got 13 laps to go.
Indeed, we see Brock Veselski heading for his last scheduled pit stop, and there's David Eggert. That has not been up into his element since turn 1, but has done very, very, very well to claw himself back up into the top 10. And I think they're both going on for the mediums? They're both going on for the mediums now. So yeah, it is Susie that is the only one that's going to be sticking onto the softs as it stands, because I don't think anyone else is doing any more scheduled pit stops, I believe. So he is effectively the only one stretching those soft compounds as he can. And just looking at here from his gap between Canzoneri, he is following that Italian and just making it stick. And you, as you mentioned before, thinking about the momentum, think about the target up ahead to be able to follow and maybe even overtake a championship leader. Zubik is also into the pits. So, okay, so Zubik's also into the pits. So I think that's good news for Canzoneri then. Canzoneri and Susie. So Susie's up into 4th and Canzoneri's up into 3rd. So that means Canzoneri only has to worry about Cedric Bill up ahead in 2nd, and he'll be able to rescue this race.
Yes, and he's less than 4 seconds up the road. So if Giuseppe just keeps it smooth and drives quickly but without panicking, he should certainly have the ability to catch Cedric Bill, who was doing well. He's in the 19s, but Canzoneri is into the 18s. So, in fact, he just did the fastest lap of the race with an 18.351. So Canzoneri going very, very quickly on the medium tyre now.
Yeah, indeed. And Susie just behind 18.5. That is his personal best. And Zubik has gone onto the softs, so going to be 2 softs falling behind Canzoneri. But the thing is, Canzoneri is doing so good on the mediums that it won't be much of a worry for him. And Bill up ahead, I think it's just the only one that needs to worry about is not just about Canzoneri, because Canzoneri will probably make the overtake maybe soon because he is catching a second a lap. But if Susie and Zubik might be able to catch up, because there is a possibility they might, and if Bill's not also not going to make good pits, so he's going to stay in the hards. So those hards are going to plateau very soon, and eventually like degrade pretty fast over time, in about like 11 laps. Is there 11 laps of tire life in Bill's hards though?
Well, the curious thing about it is, unlike the softs, which sort of, to use a well-worn phrase, tend to kind of fall off a cliff and go from absolutely lovely to pretty awful pretty quickly, the hards just drop away a couple of percent a lap, and there's nothing, you just can't go any faster on them. They don't feel disastrous, but they just start to cost you time. So the sort of tyre that on a stint like this, they'll get him to the end without there being a disaster, but he just can't make them quicker than they are. So, and he's got only got a 1 second lead on Canzoneri, and with 11 laps to go, it's just not worth pitting. He's better off to just drive it home from here on these hard tyres and stick to his strategy.
About 10 laps left to go. Single has crossed the line, so it's effectively a race on his own. 17 seconds ahead from the next car up ahead. Done very well, the Hungarian, but Canzoneri is here there to pick up the pieces from his own mistake and to think of what could have been. At least he'll be able to rescue this with a second place. Going to be his joint worst performance since Sepang, whenever he also fell behind to Isvan Svingel in that situation, but it's going to be a bit different for him because it could have been a very long duel. But up there to make overtake onto Cedric is not at all going to be an easy task for him, but especially with that, I think he's pretty much timed his overtake fairly right just before turn 11. I don't think the Frenchman will make it many difficult for him. Won't make it. Oh no, he fends off to the outside line here for turn 11 and 12. He is going to make it very difficult for him, especially on the hards. And surely with Cantoneri onto a fresher mediums, has to look for the outside line. Is going to be second place. That Cedric Bill's fighting off from. Brilliant defensive move. And look at this. Susie's all right behind him now. So it's not actually going to be all easy for the Italian. And Giuseppe, I think, definitely knows that and has to make the overtake now, heading down for the home stretch now. Coming out for the final corner. And with the slipstream up to his available, has to make the move stick. Otherwise, he's going to be under serious pressure with the DRS. And he does so, even before turn 1. And oh my word, that was super close from Susie. Right behind Bill, right behind, trying to follow suit to Cantoneri up ahead. But Bill just about defends. Brilliant racing there. Cantoneri now finally gets into second place, and Susie's gone a little bit too deep onto Cedric, but very, very close there. Really, really close.
Very exciting racing, of course. Susie's on the softs, which should still be very, very nice. So he is 2 steps of tyre faster than Cedric Bill. So he should be able to make fairly short work of this with a little bit of push to pass, and indeed he does. So I mean Susie now past Cedric Bill and into third, but fabulous close racing with only 9 laps to go out of 50. So the race certainly coming alive at this late stage. Perhaps not for first place, but for the podium. Very exciting racing.
Susie is looking on for his, I believe it is going to be his best result if he finishes the way he does. He's never been on the podium this year. The best he's gotten actually was in 4th in the last race over at Sepang. And to cap it off with 3rd, especially for a Salspot racing team, I think would be really, really happy for them. Go Team Racing will also come home with 4th and 5th with their best points haul as it stands. But Zubik going to try and make it into a podium. He's also going to be looking for another podium onto his books. And well, we'll have to see how this is going to materialize between these 2 drivers here. Going to be both of the soft compounds, but Zubik has gotten the fresher softs as they head down through the 3rd turn, and no, quite close. Zubik is in right behind Susie, just has to follow behind.
Well, Zubik's come from nowhere, hasn't he? Do we know how long ago he pitted?
Zubik's pitted, I think, just 2 laps before Susie did. But
okay.
he will also put it in for that stuff. Yeah, so I think it was just fault. He used to be in 2nd where Cedric was. Then, yeah, he went into the pits for the softs. So, yeah, he has effectively come from nowhere. But with a fantastic strategy, though, looks to be also in charge for a podium to the books. I think Susie and Zubik are both challenging for their first podiums here in FSR Pro. With about 8 laps to go, and with hardly anything separating those 2, it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top. Cantoneri has done everything he needs to do, but Susie and Zubik with them fighting, I think, will just give him breathing room. But if those 2 don't fight, then it could be a problem for the Italian. But you can see that he's using the slipstream, just trying to push the distance between himself and Susie and Zubik.
Yeah, just double check. Zubek stopped 2 laps after Susie, lap sort of 37, 38 versus 35 or so for Susie. So he's got a couple of laps better tyre life, which might come home to roost towards the end of this stint, because as we discussed, Susie's given himself a 14-lap stint on the softs, and Zubek's given himself a 12-lap stint on the softs. So yeah, this is going to be a nice close fight all the way to the end.
Absolutely. Still nail-biting stuff here with only a few laps to go. Just a handful of laps split between Susie and Zubik. With what's at stake here, it could really go anyone's way. And I think Susie definitely knows this for what he is playing with. With Winter not attending here, he will claim 3rd in the Drivers' Championship as it stands. But Zubik, looking to be putting a spanner to the works on his debut, looks to get a podium for Go Team Racing. It's going to be their first podium if he'll be able to achieve it, and Salspot Racing Team's first podium if they win it. here in 2025. So that's really what's at stake here between these two. Very exciting, and you can tell how much it just means to those two to be able to get that last spot in the podium for how hard they're going to be racing here in the final stages of the race. And hardly anything separates between these two. But Catanari still just behind, still just ahead of Susie, and just barely about so. And that will allow for Susie to get a bit of DRS, and hopefully that will help to his advantage to be able to defend. And if that will be the case, then I think it might be the Tunisians' position maybe to lose. Maybe we'll have to see. But there's a slipstream now for Zubek. Now it's going to go side by side. No, there's contact. Zubek is hit behind Susie, and then has to lift off the gas now to allow for Susie to just go on ahead. But that's a bit, yeah, I think it's hit the rear wing onto Susie. I wonder if there might be any front wing damage there from the Goatee racing driver.
He looks okay. I'm looking from above now. The car looks fine, but yeah, that was pretty spirited defending.
That was very, very close there. Oh my, Susie's gone a bit wiggling for the 14 and 15 now. I think he's lost a little bit now with the DRS advantage now from Catanari, though. I think Susie will just be able to fend off, maybe heading for turn 1. It's hard to tell. And for the first apex, better exit there from Zubek, though. And with another DRS for Susie's favor, still just about pushes a bit. And will hopefully, yes, he does so! Zubek has gone sideways, but he still just about manages to hold it off. But that's pushed it a bit further away than he would have liked when he was all over the backside of Susie. Now, it's now pushed a bit further now, and he has to now for the next few laps try and get back what he lost.
He would have overheated his tyres significantly, and as we know, the softs are very fragile. So Amir and Susie, incredibly clever there, using the DRS from Catanari to defend and making it very hard for Zubek to jump him with a DRS advantage, and forced Zubek to really push it so hard into turn 3. That was a lovely controlled slide, but it would have overheated his tyres. But he's still got a few more laps to do something. And Amir and Susie, remember too, is on a pretty long soft stint and may start to struggle with the couple of laps remaining. We've got 4 laps to go now, I think, and Amir and Susie's tyres are going to really start to struggle, I believe.
Absolutely. Tadona just recently retired, so as it stands, Catanari is the only Valet driver that's going to contribute points on the board to Valet's Pro Constructors defense. But even so, Catanari is not at all completely safe from 3rd and 4th. That's been putting on a pretty good showing, and Susie has been a little bit struggling a bit ever since a bit of that bonk from Zubek just a few laps prior. And I think Zubek knows this, and that's why he's going to pull out all the stops now with about 4 laps left remaining. It's now going to be all or never for the Goatee racing driver. Looking here through turn 11, 12, slipstream a bit to his available, but hasn't quite made use of it. Still just lots of behind. I think he's going to look for another chance, maybe a few laps prior. Zubek still just
I don't think Susie may not quite get DRS this time round, which will be music to the ears of Petr Zubek. I just think he's fallen outside the 0.7 of a second. It's very close, and the times keep changing.
Yep.
We'll see in a moment if he has DRS.
Oh, he doesn't. He actually doesn't now.
So, yeah.
That's the last time as well, because I think we're going to see the softs plateau as well. So Zubek with also a fresher softs, that means that Susie is effectively off the back foot here, and we're going to definitely see this now.
Big dive into turn 3.
Oh my word, that's so close! Super close there, and Susie just about holds off from Zubek. That was an opportunistic dive bomb there from Zubek. He knew it was now or never, and still, Susie just about fends off it for the time being.
That was pretty clean driving from both of them. It was a bold dive up the inside, and you don't often see people trying to, successfully overtaking there.
Slipstream.
It was a man who doesn't like DRS overtakes, I think. That's what I was seeing. Wanted to do it old school.
Oh, a little bit there, diveways from Susie,
yeah,
and Susie just a little offline for 11 and 12, but still just about fends off. And meanwhile, Zubek just goes around for the outside, heading through turn 13. Is it going to make it work? No, Susie has the inside line. No, he's sweeps around. What a brilliant overtake over for P3 for Zubek, and just about displaces Susie for P3.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic racing, and hats off to both of them. Hats off for Susie for leaving racing room. I don't think there was any contact between them, but absolutely spirited racing. And now Susie's got the DRS into turn 1. What's he going to do?
He's going to sweep around that side. No, he hits the grass. Zubek hits the grass, and that will allow for Susie to have the DRS now. Is he going to be able to make it move? And surely has been a bit of a worn soft compound, but meanwhile Zubek defends pretty brilliantly. He goes a little bit sideways, but still just about fends off. Incredible racing from these two. Oh, he calls a bit of a tack slapper heading for turn 5. And another one. Oh, and up for the grass, and Susie takes for the inside line. They're side by side for the closing stages of the Australian Grand Prix. I can't believe my word. And Susie reclaims third. Susie reclaims third.
Oh, absolutely fabulous racing. And you know, the only person enjoying this more than us is Giuseppe Canzonieri, saying, yeah, guys, fight on.
Absolutely, Zubek tries to make for the move onto turn 11, but not quite working. And I think Zubek has got about just the last few opportunities to make a move if he really wants to try and get that podium onto his career books in rFactor 2. And a little bit of a wiggle out for the apex means that Susie again has enough of a breathing room here. But it's all that Tunisia might need. Maybe, just maybe. But again, with Zubek having the DRS, it could really go any way, David.
Absolutely. It is incredible. This battle over the last few laps has been worth the price of admission alone. I think it's fantastic racing, and it's not over yet. These guys have both shown they've both got the pace, both got the fight, both got the spirit, and both got the desire to be on the podium at the end of this event. Although Zubek consistently pushing really, really hard into turn 3 there, and it has cost him a couple of times now. He's had a bit of a slide then, a bit of a drift in the middle of turn 3, and that's the sort of drift that's going to overheat his rear tyres again and may just have let Susie off the hook. So fantastic fight, but he's on the back foot now, Zubek.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the mistake Susie has been looking for, and that was too much of a recovery from Zubek to have. You can see he's really wiggling there. I think his tire compound is slowly starting to go, but Susie's as well. But I think Zubek, with all that push that he's done and the overtakes, and just the amount of aggression that he has to do to try and get into third, I think it's not going to pay up to its dividends. Istvan Spiegel himself goes on through to the final lap of the race. He has competed here in Melbourne previously. I think he came just outside of the top 10, imagining what could have been to be on the top side of the podium here in Albert Park. But meanwhile, navigating for the first sector, he's done everything possible that he needs to do. And I must say, this is probably one of Single's finest drives here in this season so far.
Yeah, very, very cool, very clinical. But he didn't just make those hards last. If we think back to the beginning, he was so close in pace to Canzonieri when he was on the hard and Canzonieri on the medium, that he just had lovely pace and lovely consistency, and it's been quite a clinical race for a guy who had the pace but also had the strategy to make a one-stop work.
Completely unmatched in qualifying and drove his race to an absolute T. He was also completely unmatched here in these 50 laps. The Hungarian of Istvan Spiegel will come through the final few corners to not only win here in the FSR Pro Australian Grand Prix, but also will take the FSR Pro Championship lead here out of Australia. He comes through to the final corner and he does it. Istvan Spiegel wins here in Albert Park. Giuseppe Canzonieri will come through in the third sector and will just about fend it from Susie and Zubek to reclaim and get P2. He has done best of what was a possible situation, which could have been worse, but the Italian absolutely recovered phenomenally well. Susie does it to get himself up into third. That is his best position yet, along with Zubek in fourth. What an incredible duel between those two that we see in the closing stages. Cedric Bill has done very well in his tire compound to defend off for fifth, with Marsa makes it a CMT Go Team Racing fourth, fifth, and sixth. This is one of their best ever performances here this year so far. And Van Leeuwen gets himself to seventh, so that will be Optimal's next best place in terms of... Oh, he's heading to the pits. He's heading into the pits. Oh yeah, he's heading to the pits, yeah. I'm not sure what's happened to Van Loon heading into the pits like that. I'm not sure. Bushowski comes up for the line, and that'll be P8 for MV Conquest, the best ever position for the team here at Albert Park. David Agayon in 9th, with Perseus Muram in 10th, Crawford in 11th, and Vicinevich, the final of the finishers here, comes across the line 2 laps down in 12th, makes it an MV Conquest 8 and 12. Well, that was an incredible race, I must say.
Yeah, it never got boring, did it? There was so much going on with the great variety of tyre strategy that we saw. Hards and mediums, mediums and hards, mediums and softs. And the two guys, Zubek and Susie, they really gave the crowd their money's worth with that battle at the end, both fighting on relatively fresh softs. That was really exciting stuff. So brilliant racing. Fantastic clinical victory from Singel, and some really spirited fighting for the boys in 2nd, 3rd and 4th. And congratulations to all finishers.
Absolutely. Final look for the race results now. Istvan Svingel holds on to a very, very good race win, and as such holds on to the championship lead for now. Giuseppe Canzonieri, he's done very well from his mistake midway for the race to hold on to 2nd, which will equal his performance from Sepang. Outside of that, Amir Susie in 3rd after a brilliant duel with Peter Zubik. He claims Cellspot's Racing Team's first ever podium and his career best finish as well in the Pro Championship. Peter Zubik, upon his debut, very good there from 4th for the CMT Go Team Racing driver, with Cedric Biel and Nandor Marsa 5th and 6th. That brings them a lot of points haul to the constructors there for Go Team Racing. Sander Van Loon in 7th for Optimal makes it 1 and 7, so a healthy points haul for Optimal to hold on to their constructors lead, with MV Conquest of Andrei Brodvotsky in 8th, with David Ayan in 9th for Optimal, and then Perseus Miram in 10th. Completes for the top 10 here. Outside of the top 10, 11th for Terry Crawford, done very well to recover from his, I think he had a problem with his pit stops. Finish over for 11th with Mihail Vincnevich, the last of the finishers, in 2 laps down in 12th. The people that did not finish, Samuel Tindona, Gerard Batala, Juho Sapanen, Sigurd Frey, Matteo Frugini, Ruben van der Hooding, and William Snowden, all retired. That was absolutely incredible, I must say. 19 started on the grid, 12 finished. It does show the sort of hectic nature that Albert Park brings here.
Yeah, brilliant race. Glad I was here to see it, and thank you for all the audience that have stuck with us to the end. But it was a fantastic race. Very exciting, varied strategies, great pace. So yeah, well done to the FSR Pro Grid.
Absolutely. It was absolutely exciting here for the 10 minutes of qualifying that we've seen here, which was one of Single's best qualifying performances this season thus far. And to put on an absolute clinical display of racing here in the Pro Championship means that he holds on to the lead, and Giuseppe Canzonieri will head over into the European rounds with a bit of a back foot here, but still not quite just far enough. He's still fairly confident. He's only 4 points away from that championship lead, and it's not at all going to be easy for Istvan Svingel to defend. As we head over to the European leg over here in the Pro Championship, Spielberg will host the next round, followed by Silverstone and Spa-Francorchamps in the coming over for the few weeks, but then also after which we'll also have the World Championship, which is coming up very soon.
Well, just fantastic. Really exciting racing. Mix of strategy. Very enjoyable all the way to the end, with fabulous racing over even for position and for podiums, even over the last half dozen laps. So, yeah, a classic race in Pro.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you to David O'Reilly for being here with me as color commentator. I couldn't do it without him. He's been phenomenal, fantastic. Thank you so much, especially on short notice. And thank you also to the broadcast director, Pascal Eggert, as well, for being here with us today. And I've been Amir Oates. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.